Welcome to Kettlebell Corner, where strength meets theory, where we take you on a deeper dive into all things kettlebells. I'm Jeremiah Waylon, and he's Roger Parks. I almost busted into an Eminem song, but I refrained. Okay, welcome back, Roger. In case you missed it, I did a solo episode, last episode, episode 40. And you know what? It turns out it's our most downloaded.
Interesting.
Just kidding. I don't know. I don't think it is, but
either way, well, you can do this on your own. If that's the case. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Check out next time. But what I did mention in that last episode, and I said we laid some groundwork with some foundational episodes about our principle-based approach, some of the physics behind what we do, and we kind of addressed most all skills. And that we wanted to take the podcast in a direction where we actually get to coach you, the listener, watcher, by one, sending us videos where we can break them down and occasionally be able to have you on the podcast with us, and two, answer some questions you might have. So we put out the call for that, and we did get some videos. We haven't set that up according to our schedules just yet, but we do have some questions that we got, and I think we should answer some of those. Roger, you up for that?
Sure.
All right. You haven't seen any of these, so this is sort of like a blind taste test. Some of them might be
tasting
Coke.
Things.
Yeah, some of them might be Pepsi. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. You could taste them if you want to. I picked out a few that I thought were kind of interesting that cover a little bit of a gauntlet, and we'll just see how it goes. All right. The first one I got, Roger, and names aren't important, so I'm not going to share the names. But if you want me to make up a name for you, I will. Okay. Does that sound good?
For me specifically, or the person asking the question?
Both. First question. I've been training hardstyle kettlebells for about 3 years, and my snatch numbers have plateaued for months. I keep adding volume, but nothing changes. At what point does more work become the problem and not the solution? And how do I know if I've actually hit my true ceiling or just a training ceiling?
Okay, so that one's tricky, and it's tricky because if your snatch numbers have plateaued, you have not added more volume. So I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe they meant high volume.
Yeah. So if you've added volume, then your snatch numbers have in fact increased. Your work capacity's gone up, and you are in fact better than you were. Should I assume that we're talking about a single session bout? Should I assume something like a snatch test?
Let's talk about just general training, not a snatch test. Let's talk about a single session bout. Maybe they're not sure what the appropriate numbers are, because it seems like, are they really training, it seems like, or are they like, plateauing only? And maybe we can help them get past that.
Okay. So this is the tricky part about answering questions. And sometimes I feel a little bit bad as much as I experience emotions, but
sidebar.
my usual response to a question is, that's a stupid question.
Oh, well, I thought it was, it depends.
It really is not. But the questions aren't always asked in a way that renders them answerable. And why that's actually useful is, if you have a question, usually the most important thing you can think about is whether or not your question is very narrowly formulated. Do you know exactly what you're asking? Because again, in this description, we have some contradictory information. I plateaued, but my numbers have gone up. So there's a little bit of ambivalence here. Does this person know exactly what the goal is? And that's going to be the first step there. We've got to define this, because if we don't define narrowly what the goal is, then we can't, one, resolve that contradiction. Two, we can't push things in a particular direction. Is the goal to move on to a heavier bell? So for example, have I added more reps with a 24, let's say, but I can't do a 28? I mean, that would be surprising to me, but maybe that's it. Maybe you're trying to get a certain volume in a particular time. I don't know, but for questions like this, you have to really narrowly define or narrowly ask the question, and that's how you're going to get the best answer.
So going forward, if you're asking questions of us, narrow that crap down a little bit.
Well, right? to get the most specific help, and honestly, most of what we do as a coach is help you figure out what it is you want.
Yeah.
There's no expectation when people come in. If you knew what it is you want and what it is you were doing, then every now and then I will get a very pinpoint question. It's usually from another coach.
Mm-hmm.
It'll usually start with, "Hey, coach," because that's what coaches call one another. Just so you know,
we recognize our own.
My goal is this. I've been stuck with this. I've tried this. This has worked a little bit. Any other ideas? So we usually get pretty specific questions. But let's move forward. Let's assume that we want to get better at this. First and foremost, this is going to seem counterintuitive. But if you're stuck with snatching and you're trying to make your snatch numbers go up, do something else.
Mm-hmm. Like some heavy swings or something?
It could be swings. It could be cleans. It depends on the type. Again, we don't have enough information here. It depends on what the limiting factor is. And this is always what you want. If I want to press a heavier bell overhead, I need to figure out what the limiting factor is. Is it poor shoulder mobility? Are my muscles not big enough? Are my muscles not strong enough? Is it my midsection? Is it my stance? Is it technique? What is the limiting step in this process? And once we figure that out, we can move forward. But aside from that, and that may help us decide whether another ballistic lift is good. But where do you feel like the breakdown happens? So you're doing snatches. Do you feel like the bell just always feels heavy? If that's the case, do some strength work. Just take a block off 4 to 6 weeks, lift heavy things, do some barbell work, do some regular stuff, maybe do more grind lifts, get stronger. Do you feel like you're getting fatigued? Then it's a muscle endurance thing. And you just mindlessly pushing over and over again against these numbers is not going to work. If that's the case, if you're doing muscle endurance to improve a muscle endurance goal, then either A, the stimulus, the type of workout that you've been doing, your body just doesn't think it's relevant anymore, so it's not adapting, or more likely, you are not recovering well enough. And that's what I would focus on in that situation, because there's always an assumption. Think about the question. The nature of the question, the way it's framed, people always assume that an exercise goal requires an exercise stimulus. You could just need a nap, or to drink more water, or add more protein, or to go to a therapist. And I'm being very, very serious here. There's no sarcasm.
No,
I know
that's
I need
good.
to justify that sometimes, but it's not necessarily an exercise thing. So it could very well be that. But the first thing I would suggest for someone to do is take note of where you are. Find some way to test the thing that it is you're trying to do. Take some time off. And by off, I just mean maybe take a week off. That's not a bad idea, but do something else for a while. Then you can get an idea of what your limiting factor is. And this is where the actual training is going to come in. Once you are recovered well, once or you've laid groundwork you may need to lay, you come back in and you say, okay, am I not strong enough? Do my muscles not last long enough? Is this a cardiovascular thing? Is this a technique thing? Those are going to be probably the 4 big buckets that you're going to focus on. And there are more, but these are just kind of the broad stroke things.
Right.
So how's my technique? Am I on point? If not, get a coach. Get some feedback. Send us a video. We'll be happy to evaluate it.
Okay? Send it to theironrevival@gmail.com or on our Instagram @theironrevival. That's the easiest way, probably.
So
or
send us that.
Roger.
We're happy to help with that technique piece. If it's a muscle endurance thing, you're going to need to do things that really require you to move your muscles longer. I like to work with work to rest ratios, which is a very effective way. And I don't care what exercises you do. And a work to rest ratio, let's say a common one we do when we're working toward a snatch test is 1 minute. 1 minute is our chunk of time. And let's say we're doing 15 seconds of work and there are 45 seconds left in a minute. Then for every 15 seconds of work, we got 45 seconds of rest. It's 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because the single unit of work is 1, that's 15. And then we're resting 3 times longer than that. 15 times 3 is 45. So 1 to 3. As we get stronger and we push our muscles more, we start to do more reps. Let's say we're doing an EMOM format. We're doing more reps in the same period of time. Now maybe I'm working Maybe I'm doubling the work I do. Now I'm working for 30 seconds and I'm resting for 30 seconds. That's a 1-to-1. Eventually, maybe I get to the point where I've completely flipped it. And now I'm working for 45 seconds and I'm doing 15 seconds of rest. So now rather than 1-to-3, it becomes 3-to-1. This forces your muscles to do more work in a shorter period of time that will train your muscular endurance. For cardio, I know this is not a popular opinion in the kettlebell world, but like get on some cardio equipment. Go do some jogging. Get on a rower.
Yeah.
The idea that kettlebells are better at that than these other things, I think is just a silly idea. If you don't want to do that stuff, you can absolutely use kettlebells for different protocols, but we're talking simple. So go do what we know works and get out and do some road work. Get your heart rate up, hop on a rower, Stairmaster, bike, whatever. If it's a strength thing, lift heavy things. Change your rep range. And if you suspect it might be a strength thing, then you can go right into that. You can say, hey, I'm not going to do as much volume. I'm going to decrease my volume, increase my rest, but I'm going to increase my load. So I'm going to lift heavier things. And that would work if it's a strength deficit, right? So we have 4 basic things that we can do. And these are the things that we can focus on. But to recap, one, we want to ask this question more narrowly. What is it that we really want to do? Then we figure out what's getting in the way. Then after that, we do something different than what we've done, because even if we know the right thing to do, our body may not accept the input. We're very sensitive to different. Different causes what we call an alarm response. When we get that alarm response, we adapt and we get stronger. So do something different that's going to contribute toward your goal. And then after you do that different thing, then you can start to focus in on, or maybe you do it right away, that's fine too, but you focus in on the thing that's getting in your way. You focus on one of those 4 buckets. Is it assuming it's an exercise thing, is it a technique thing? Is it a muscular strength thing, muscular endurance, or cardiovascular endurance? And then format things accordingly. And this is what AI is actually good at right now, is learning, not workouts. AI does not spit out good workouts. Just to be clear, it will soon. But right now, most of what AI spits out is garbage. And if you're taking these workouts and if you think they're good, you're wrong. Okay.
It's true.
It just is what it is. Give it 3 months. They'll be better.
Yeah.
But what AI is good for is what are the parameters to train me for, let's say, muscular endurance. And it'll start giving you some times and some examples of things that it's really good for. And that's built into everyone's Google browser. So you can do that even if you don't want to subscribe to another one. So that's probably enough of an answer to that question.
Yeah, that sounds good. And for all those out there, if you are trying to improve your snatch, we do have the snatch test blueprint. And yes, that will prepare you for a snatch test, but it will cover and get you introduced to a lot of the concepts Roger was just talking about, as far as the work to rest ratios and actually following a plan and using other methods besides just a snatch to get where you need to be. I think it's like $40 on our app, and it's well worth your time. It's like, I think it's a 12-week program, in fact. So that's better than AI.
Because we had to assume these deficits, we don't know you. So we have to assume one of these things is the problems. In this program, we gave you solutions to all of these potential problems. And even if you didn't have problems there, these are all things that are going to go into being successful with the snatch. So that actually is, would be a good answer to that question. A simple way. She can figure it out, without that, but that's a simple, quick, solution there. So what else we got?
Okay. Hey, coach, at what point in my client's development should I stop correcting and start letting the movement mature on its own? I feel like I'm overcoaching my intermediate student and potentially interfering with something that just needs time and repetition.
Immediately.
Okay. So there it is.
Don't wait. I'm guilty of this. I know you're guilty of this.
Yeah,
every coach, every trainer is probably guilty of this. We want everyone to know how smart we are. There's sometimes a frustration factor. I've been in situations where I've been passed over. Oh, I don't want to work with that guy. Now, at this point, I just counted. I've got 25 years of experience. I know a lot of things. I spend a lot of time, reading. And this other trainer didn't really know anything about anything and had been training for about 6 months, but he had the right look and, flashy exercises. So sometimes you need to go out there and you need to feel like, oh, hey, I'm really proving myself. That's not good training. It's not good coaching. The human brain is going to be able to do more with teaching to teach your client than you're ever going to do. So assuming directive one, which is keep your client safe, let them figure it out. The real art in coaching comes in knowing when to step in, knowing what the limiting factor is and where to start, which is why we use what's called the algorithm, knowing the right place to jump in. And then I think the trickiest part, but for me the most fun part, is put people in a situation where the only way they can solve the problem is to do what you want them to do.
Elaborate.
So what I mean by that specifically is I've decided that your limiting factor is you do not know how to access your hips. Okay? You're not using them. So I might give you some mobility drills, some awareness drills, but rather than me telling you what to do, I'm going to give you maybe the physical target. I'm going to say, hey, I want you to stand right here. And I'm going to say, I want your thumbs at the bottom of your rib cage and the pinkies at the top of your pelvis. Then I'm going to have someone flex and extend the spine. Do you feel that? Yes. Your hands are there for feedback. Mm-hmm. So one of the conditions of this next puzzle that I'm creating for you is you're not going to move through your spine. You're going to have to move through your hips. What I want you to do is I want you to reach back. You're going to bend your knees just slightly. I want you to reach back until you can touch the wall with your butt. It's a simple thing. If they squat up and down, they're not going to get far enough back. So you have to position them the right distance away. Yeah. But again, my goal as a coach is I say, hey, I want this thing to work. So I'm going to put you in a position where if you do anything other than what I want, you cannot succeed. Success for you has two criteria. It's very specific. One, don't move the spine, and you've got hands there to give you feedback. Two, I want you to feel the wall on your butt. It's a simple thing, but these are the things, rather than you talking about squatting and hinging and pelvic mechanics and things like that. And sometimes clients want that. Sometimes they really want to be informed and they dig that. So by all means, but most of the time, figure out what it is they need and then put them in an environment where they're going to learn that. And by learning, I don't mean conceptually, I mean feeling. They need to feel what success feels like. And then just shut up. If you see somebody doing a set, usually I'm quiet and then I'll say something after if it needs to be said, or I develop a shorthand. So my client and I will agree on this. Let's say I'm looking at swings and I feel like they're breaking back too soon through the hips. I might just say patience, or even better, wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
Same.
And they know what I mean because we've talked about it. We agree on it, right? Wait, well, what do you mean wait? Now, I'm not bombarding this person with cues in real time. I'm just saying, wait, I need to wait a little longer. Let me wait until my arms make contact with my body. Then I'm going to move into the backswing. They've done this already, maybe hundreds of times, 1,000 times plus. So they can internalize that. And it's one word. It's just wait. I'm not over coaching. And then when they do it, guess what I say?
Nothing.
No, I usually say yes.
Okay. Well, you told me to guess.
It's simple though.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There are no attaboys, no trophies. Hey, you're going to get a certificate. Yes.
Not even an attaboy?
maybe later.
Okay.
I feel like I should have something recorded that someone else says.
Woohoo!
Like Richard Simmons or something, being enthusiastic.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just yes, because I gave you the cue that I needed, wait, and then I let you know that you did it the right way. We want people to eventually get to the point where they can feel it, and that's when we set that down. Did you feel the difference? Yeah, I did. I really did. When a client tells me yes, I don't believe them. I don't think they're always lying, but I think they're sometimes lying. When they feel the difference, like, oh yeah, that was so much better. It felt so much easier. Okay, this learning has occurred. So in the beginning, give them really, really simple things to do and just pick one thing. You don't need to pick 50 things. And oh, well, your knees are going to a bit of valgus, and I don't like the pronation of your feet, and I don't know, but your lumbar spine is going into flexion, and I think that's a bit unsafe. Like that, shut up.
No, nobody cares about that. It's too much to think about anyways. These are complex movements as they are. So all these commands are just going to throw them out of their element
Yes.
to begin with.
So it's like, okay, let's say we see during a skill, we see the low back rounding too much. Hey, our objective when we do these lifts is to use our legs. If we're using our spines, we're not using our legs, at least not as much as we want. Then I'm going to put you in this position. Maybe I put them on all fours. They do a rock back. Mm-hmm. Now, is that the same environment that they're going to be in when they're doing the skill? No, it's not. Let's say it's a swing. You're not swinging on your knees, although I'm sure some jackhole.
It's on the internet. Don't worry.
I'm sure. But this is not the environment. This is not the environment we're going to be in. So we may need to take another step. But it's like, hey, I'm going to put this thing on your back right now. Okay, if your spine moves a lot, it's going to fall off. So don't let the thing fall off, and I want you to shift back. Maybe I'll put a pad behind them. Do you feel that? Good. We're just going to shift forward and back. I want you to get that feeling. Now, do you see how you're moving through your hips, but you're not moving through your spine? Yeah, I feel that. Then we bring them up. We do a deadlift, we do a squat, whatever it happens to be. But we're giving them the feeling that they need to get, and then we're building on that rather than, a dissertation on proper swing mechanics. I mean, look, if there's anybody in the world that wants to talk too much about kettlebell swings, it's me.
Yeah, aren't you writing a book about them?
I am. But I'm also not going to do that because I'm tired of being a bad coach. I want to be a good coach.
Yeah.
So there's a little phrase that you should say to yourself as a coach: shut the fuck up.
Oh, okay. Should you say that out loud? Because that's going to get real confusing. I will say this, the shorthand stuff 99% of the time works, especially, I think this person said they were a little bit more advanced lifters that they're coaching. So like they're going to already have the baseline knowledge of what these things are. And to the point where you mentioned earlier, the algorithm that we created, and there's an episode on that in our list. And maybe I should just have the episodes up right next to me so I can just tell you which number it is. But when you start to have this process, and I think that's why it was created, is to eliminate the overcoaching, because you're like, oh, this happens, so then this happens, and this can happen, and this happens. And ultimately, when you are able to combine all those, it forms what you need it to form, specifically speaking about the ballistic here on this one. And what I'll often do is I'll ask them, I'll be like, tell me what happened there. Like what happened? What was up? What did you feel? What did you didn't feel? And whether I don't care what the answer is, but I want them to start to, I guess, have an understanding of what they're trying to accomplish, because these are skills. This isn't just, your dumbbell shoulder pressing or front raising, which also I'm assuming there's probably some skills to that as well. But these are high, fast moving skills. But that's sort of one way that I flip it as well. But I agree 100%. The shorthand stuff that you can develop with your clients is good. And if you're working with somebody and you don't have this shorthand, if you're a student, maybe you start to find out, hey, can we talk about this?
You indirectly brought up what I think is a really good point. And that is, when you're asking your client questions, you're asking them to pay attention. And when your clients externalize their performance so much, meaning when they depend so much on you to tell them whether they've done it right or wrong, they haven't learned it deeply enough. Mm-hmm. When the real learning happens, they're going to feel the difference, and they're going to be able to go home and do this. And if you're a good coach, you don't want your clients to depend on you for that. You want to be there to problem solve and progress, not to give them feedback. You shouldn't be giving someone the same feedback 5 years, since meeting them and coaching them. There are clients that way that will not connect. That, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. The usual response from other coaches is, oh, get better. Oh, it's the coach's fault. Yeah. Okay. It's the coach's fault. I'll admit to that. Sure. But I've worked with a lot of really, really good people, really, really smart people who've been doing this longer than me. And they'll say, you know what? Some people just won't put the work in. And what you're suggesting is you have to be as a client, or as a trainee, a practitioner, you have to be willing to focus and put your awareness somewhere. That's how you're going to get better.
Yeah, and I definitely, one thing when I set up, especially with somebody at the beginning of when we start training together, I sort of like to set some expectations about what this relationship is going to be, in the sense of, like, look, I do want you to get better. And I understand that at some point I am not going to be, let's say, needed, or maybe we're parting ways. Maybe it's an affordability thing in the future, or maybe it's like a move, we move and you move on, or whatever. But I always establish that my goal is to help you be able to do this ultimately on your own. So however we got to get there, and we'll discover how they learn best, because I think that's important too. Some people learn by showing them a video of themselves doing what is said to be happening. And that's a useful tool as well. And I frequently will say, like, hey, what's the video show? Or we do the feedback stuff that Roger, that you mentioned about, where we're setting up tactile cues and these sort of things. So maybe you need to have that sort of conversation with your clients when you're starting out, and maybe with yourself. Maybe if you talk too much, you get a podcast and you talk about it there instead. Right?
Speaking of which, let's answer another question.
All right. This one, as someone in my late 40s, I've noticed my recovery between sessions feels completely different than it did 5 years ago. How should I be rethinking my programming or periodization now that my biology has changed, without defaulting to doing less?
Well, okay. I think that we're assuming that biology has changed.
Yeah. Just because you get older, maybe it doesn't change.
Look, I'm stronger now than I was in my 20s.
It's funny you say that, because, like, just the other day, I just turned 47, birthday shout out, right? I am like the most fit or feeling of strength, and I just feel the best I've ever felt. And this is coming from like a background of 11 years of wrestling and stuff like that, where I was constantly in the gym. I was constantly running. I was constantly wrestling. So it's kind of a wild thing. I'm like fine wine, Roger, as you can tell. I've gotten better looking.
That's what I tell everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't assume it's biology. It might be biology, and there is some information that we have that things change as we get older, but those are also averages that may or may not apply to you the same way. They're also usually with people who may have more or less activity than you, different genetic background, et cetera, et cetera. So even if it is biology, we should proceed with this as though it's not. Because if it's biology, which is what you usually get from doctors, oh, you're just getting older, do less. Well, that's in the question. I don't want to just do less. I don't want to just assume less. Mm-hmm. So this is something that we should bring back from the first question, is that recovery piece. What may change is the environment. What's changed in the last 5 years? Do you have a new job? Do you have a new partner? Do you have another child?
Or a child?
Whatever. What has changed? What was the difference between 2015 and 2020? That was 5 years. 2015, you hit let's say April 2020, you're living in a very different world. And you're in the middle of the COVID, and for some people it was better, and for a lot of people it was worse. So we can't chalk that up to biology when we have this historical life-changing event. So we need to see what in the world has changed first. And that's going to be the first stop. What's different about me? What am I doing differently? How have my habits changed? Have they improved? Now, if everything else is exactly the same, then maybe it's biology. But it could also be, in this case, probably the intuitive thing is to talk about recovery. The counterintuitive thing, and what's often true, is you have actually been deconditioning yourself by not changing up the things that you do. And I want to hit this really hard and be really clear.
Yeah, I'm not clear on
the whole idea of P90X, muscle confusion, a different workout every time you're in the gym. That's nonsense. That's not science backed. No, it is a way to sell exercise DVDs. So
listen, I did those DVDs, Roger, and I won Strongest Man in the Band. I think we covered that already.
But the idea of muscle confusion is nonsense, and doing a different exercise and a different workout every day is stupid, and you will not get stronger, you will get weaker, which is why most people didn't finish P90X. So one of the reasons.
Yeah. Well, I'm a sucker. I did finish it because I'm a weirdo like that, but
I know. So I would say let's start with, have you in that 5 years been switching things up pretty regularly? Because one common reason for getting stuck or feeling like your recovery is down is you're actually not making yourself more robust. You're not making yourself more, you're not making yourself stronger. And that will make it so you don't need to recover as much. So that would be the first thing that I would say. And then, obviously you got to address recovery, what's changed in your life. Again, it's not really one we can answer unless we figure out what's going on. But again, we can't just assume an exercise solution to this problem. It may be something else. But that would be the first thing I would do, is do something else and do something that's completely different. Learn a new skill, learn a new thing, which is why kettlebells are great for people, because many people have never done them.
Yeah.
And you will expose yourself to a completely new stimulus that you're not used to. In the beginning, your recovery will be harder, but you may find yourself getting better and stronger pretty quickly, and you may feel better. You might also be excited to go do this new stuff and to learn. And that's one of the ways when I know I've got students that are really, really engaged, they do stupid things that I tell them not to do. We're learning snatches. It's like, hey, you're done with snatches for the week. And then I see him next time. Well, I did some, basically every day after I promised I wasn't going to do that.
I haven't stopped doing it. I'm snatching right now in front of your face.
So, someone like that, probably not feeling a lot of recovery issues.
Mm-hmm.
As far as doing less is one way to go, but I think the smartest thing to do is to change the stimulus.
Okay.
And what stimulus you need, again, what are you feeling when you say, my recovery is taking longer? What specifically what specifically is going on? Do you feel kind of rickety and broken down? Then maybe you have a lighter block where you address things like endurance, muscular endurance, baseline stuff, not like super hard, joint mobility. Maybe it's like, I just don't feel as strong. Okay, well, lift heavy things and let's see if that helps. Yeah. So find the weak link and address that. But first and foremost, I would suggest changing stimulus.
And one thing that I think is probably good, obviously we talk a lot about minimum effective dose, and I think that's important to always keep in the back of your mind. And of course, kettlebells are something, and maybe you know this or maybe you don't if you're listening, that you could do them a few times a week and still get a lot of benefits out of it. But what is somebody who has tried something new, and I talked about it in the last episode, but I'm excited to do it. It's like one of those things, you're excited in the recovery. But what I noticed about some of the structure to the sessions that I'm doing is there's, I'm re-emphasizing things that I may have skipped over in the past. Like I'm warming up a little bit more because it's requiring new things for me to do, sort of, enough new things. And then I'm cooling down after my sessions. Whereas before, I do my session, I just head out the door. I'm just like moving on with my life, where I'm actually cooling down and I'm thinking about, okay, that was a transition into the next part that has allowed me some peace of my mind, and my body's like able to take a separation. I don't know if that's too esoteric or anything, but it's just, I've noticed in my own practice, that's been something that's helped me at least be more well-rounded in training and including a recovery aspect. Plus, go ahead.
Well, let me ask you a question.
No.
When do results happen? During the workout or after?
They happen after, because the workout is essentially the thing that sets you up. So if you don't do the recovery.
So does cooling down perpetuate the workout or begin the recovery?
That's what begins the recovery, I suspect.
So the sooner you begin recovery, the sooner you begin accumulating results.
And the sooner you recover.
So there's it's not just esoteric. There's something there. I don't have, there's situations where I don't want people to cool down. Sometimes the exercises I do get things turned on, so to speak. Like, oh, your glutes are working well. Well, I don't want you to inhibit them. I just got them working the way I want. You feel better. So you go throughout your day and you feel fantastic. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes recovery can get in the way of that. If you're doing, like what a lot of people do, not me, but, stretches or, deep breathing that can bring the system kind of back where it was. But in general, for someone who's functioning well, the sooner you begin the recovery, the sooner you start to reap the results.
True that. So get to your recovery sooner. Do more. All right, pal. All right. Last one, Roger. Somebody says that they specifically needed help on dosage, and we're not talking mushrooms. All right. He said, I basically haven't worked out in months and I'm finally getting back into it. I'm struggling to figure out where to start with weight and reps and just kind of like the whole package for this person. They did send me a video and we'll use it in a breakdown, but they also asked this. So I will say their skills aren't too far off. So what do you think for them in this sort of situation?
Well, I'm gonna keep this one fairly simple. I know that's uncharacteristic.
All right. No, this is perfect for this person.
But we're going to talk about the 151 that we do. And we have done an episode of that. And the 1 in this situation refers to the single rep. It is technique practice. It's the max lift, not necessarily the most you can do, but the heaviest you're currently lifting. It is a single-minded focus on getting better at each skill. I would include some of that in the beginning of each practice. I'd focus on some singles. Even if the technique's not that far off, it's still not dialed in. So we start each workouts with some ones, single reps, 1 rep at a time. Okay, let's get it tight. Let's get it right. Let's really focus. Then as we're moving on, 5 is the number that we use to represent ladder training. Okay, works a little better with grinds than it does with ballistics, but you can do it with ballistics too. You can do multiples of 5, no problem. Yeah. You can do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, whatever, and then back down. Okay. 5 is both a way to structure your workouts and also accumulate volume. So you start with 1, you go to 2, you go to 3, you're doing rungs, you go up to 5. You feel like you're ready for that, you can go back down. How do you feel after that? No, I don't really feel like I did that much. Do another ladder. When you can do 3 ladders with the same bell, go up in bell size.
Simple. And
when you feel like you've mastered your technique pretty well, you're just kind of crushing and you're doing, you've gone through, your ladder training pretty solidly, then you can do the 1. And that second one is the minute. So we can start organizing our training around time. And that's really manipulating volume. How many reps are we going to do in a particular minute? And this is really great for swings, for ballistics. Okay. So not always is great for grinds because doing, a minute of something can be a lot. Sometimes it's appropriate, but many times it's not. But you can start going through the swings and, all right, let me pick a common unit to work is 5 minutes. So I'm going to do an EMOM, 5-minute EMOM. Let's say I do 5 swings and I rest the rest of the minute. 5 swings is probably going to take you about 10 seconds. So you're doing about 10 seconds of work, 50 seconds of rest. You do it like, okay, wow, like I barely even feel that. Bump your reps up. Go to 6, go to 7. Get to the point where you're doing 10, 20 reps per minute. Okay. That's going to mean you're working more, resting less. And when you can complete, let's say your goal is to do an EMOM with 1-arm swings, 10 plus 10, so 20 swings per minute every 5 minutes. You do that, bell up, go a little heavier. And when you want to go heavier, go back down to 1. 1, 5, 1.
Restart it over.
It's a very simple format that allows you to progress through your kettlebell training. And not only does it give you a structure, but it gives you a test. if you can complete all of the reps, if you can complete all of the ladders, if you can complete the EMOM work that you've done, it's time to bell up.
Yeah.
And if you obviously if you rock it right through a workout with a bell and it's like, okay, this is even remotely hard, get a heavier one.
Yeah, make note and come back the next time with a heavier bell.
Sure.
And, still follow the format. I really like, when you think about the 151, and obviously we think about it, that's why we share it. And, if you think about it as like a full on, like this could be a way you program for a month or 6 weeks or whatever, you just follow this sort of progression. But I particularly like, and this is something that maybe I haven't even really thought about. And I like that you said this was, you start your session with the one, dial in your techniques, just try these ones and check in with everything a little bit. And then you're moving into the 5 or the additional 1, whatever it is. I think that's a really great way. And just use that method and maybe be consistent and don't expect things to happen in 30 days. Allow yourself to just enjoy the ride, right? Because it's there. If you're not consistent, then you're always going to be over in the starting point. But this little 151 program will always keep you progressing because it does have that test. I like that, Roger.
So simple. That was a simple answer.
Simple as it gets. That's our questions for today. I don't want to ask any more. That's enough, Roger. That's enough wisdom out of you. All right. That's enough whatever out of you. Okay. So keep it to yourself from here on out. All right.
My apologies.
All right. Be sure to, again, send us the stuff. You can send it through Instagram. Our Instagram is at The Iron Revival. Leave a comment in this YouTube page if you are like, hey, I don't know how to send this. I'll include the email in the description so you can just send it to that email. And if you really want Roger's phone number, just ask politely and maybe you'll get it. Anyways, that's it. Be sure to download the Bells app from the Apple App Store, full of programs like that Snatch Test Blueprint we talked about. And we'll do some of the work for you. We'll get you organized. All right. Anything else, Roger?
Nope.
All right. Thanks for the questions, those who sent it. And be sure to send us some questions. We need that to help you. All right. And don't forget, we'll take videos too. Stay strong.